Welcome back to Building Games on AWS. In this series, we'll show you the simplest way to integrate Amazon GameLift with Unreal Engine 4. In this episode, we'll go over how to download the GameLift SDK and build it. Then we'll integrate the SDK with our dedicated server build. Make note that the latest version of the Amazon GameLift SDK supports Unreal Engine version 4.26 as of the recording of this video. The first thing we have to do is ensure that our environment variables are defined. To build the GameLift SDK, there are paths to two binaries that we need to ensure is in our system variable. One for MSBuild and one for CMake. Now, if you installed Visual Studio 2017, the one for MSBuild should already be there, but you will probably have to manually input the one for CMake. So to get to your environment variables for Windows 10, right-click on this PC from a File Explorer, click on Properties, and then click on Advanced System Settings. And then in that dialog box, click on Environment Variables. And the one we want to add to is the system variable for path. So double-click on that. And to add a new path, you simply click New and paste in the path. So for Visual Studio 2017, the path to the MSBuild binary and the CMake binary is displayed on the screen right now and will also be in the description below. But keep in mind that the path to these binaries might be different depending on which version you use. So assuming that the MSBuild is already there, we simply click New in the Edit Environment variable, paste in the one for CMake, then click OK. Now, I already have the one for CMake there, so I'll just remove the one I just added. Click OK, then close out of the system properties. Now we're ready to download and install the GameLiftServer SDK. Fortunately, there's already official GameLift documentation on how to do this. For the remainder of this episode, we will be following this guide, which will be linked in the description below. For step 1, download the GameLiftServer SDK. Proceed to click on that link. Once you're on that page, scroll down to Developer Resources and Documentation. And the one we want to download is the GameLift Managed Servers SDK. Note that the latest release of this SDK is compatible with Unreal Engine version 4.26. I recommend creating a folder just to store this GameLift SDK. Once that's downloaded, navigate to the folder where you've downloaded and proceed to extract the contents. There should be two folders, GameLift Local and GameLift SDK Release. We'll discuss more about GameLift Local in the next episode. For now, open the GameLift SDK Release folder. Then the folder we want to work in is the GameLift C++ Server SDK. So double-click on that. And once you're in this directory, click on the address bar of your File Explorer, type in cmd, and press Enter. This will open up an instance of the command prompt in this directory, which is where we want to work. So back in our guide, for step 2, we will proceed to build the C++ server libraries for Unreal. And we'll just use the commands provided for us in the guide. So the first command, mkdir out, will create a folder named out in our directory. Then cd out simply will just navigate to that folder. Then we can go ahead and run the CMake command. Note that this CMake command will only work for Visual Studio 2017. Once your build files have been generated, you're ready to run the MSBuild command. Once the SDK is finished building, we can proceed to close out of the CMD. The following binary files should have been generated: a .dll file and a lib file. So navigate to where those files are generated. In our GameLiftCPP-Server SDK file, double-click on Out, which is the folder we created with our command, and click on Prefix, bin, and the file we want there is the AWS CPP SDK GameLiftServer DLL. So we'll make a copy of that and store it somewhere easily accessible for now. Then we also need that lib file that was just generated or just built. So we are back in our GameLift CPP Server SDK. Double-click on Out once again. Prefix. And this time, we want the lib file, which is the AWS CPP SDK GameLiftServer.lib. We want to copy that and paste it somewhere easily accessible as well. Now these two files needs to go in our Unreal Engine plugin folder. Now to get to our Unreal Engine plugin folder, let's go back to the folder where we stored all of our GameLift files. So this is where you extracted the GameLiftServer SDK. Then click on GameLift SDK release. And this time, instead of going into the GameLift CPP server SDK, we want to go into the GameLift Unreal plugin. And double click on GameLiftServer SDK. Then third party GameLiftServer SDK once again. We're building for Win64. And this is where those two files should reside. And you can confirm that by double-clicking on the README file, which states, place the GameLift window libraries here. and also states the name of the DLL and the lib file. After this, navigate back to the GameLift Unreal plugin folder, and this GameLiftServer SDK folder is what we want to move into our dedicated server project. So in a separate File Explorer window, navigate to your UE4 project, the one we created in the last episode. And here's your project root. We want to create a new folder and name it plugins. Then we can go into that folder and go ahead and copy this GameLiftServer SDK and paste it into that plugins folder. And that was step 4. That is how we import the GameLift plugin into our project. And to continue with this, there are actually a couple more changes we need to make in the project itself. So the two files we want to make changes to is the U project file and to the module rules in your build file. Navigate to your Unreal project root directory. Right-click on the Unreal Engine project file and select Generate Visual Studio Project File. Then we can double-click on our project SLN file to open it in Visual Studio 2017. So the first file we want to edit is the GameLift_UE4 U project file. So double-click on that. And we simply want to add in to this file saying that there will be a plugin that we'll use. So back in our guide, we simply copied the entire snippet that says plugin, and then the name of the plugin will be GameLiftServer SDK, and it will be enabled by default. Ensure you place a comma there, and then simply paste in that snippet we got from the guide. Then the second file we want to change is the build.cs file, which is in your source folder inside the project name folder, and it's your project name.build.cs. And for this file, we don't need to copy the entire snippet from the guide, but simply just the part where it names GameLiftServer SDK. So in the public dependency module names, for the add range, simply paste in GameLiftServer SDK as one of the public dependencies. Go ahead and save your project. Now we're ready to add some GameLift code to our UE4 dedicated server project. We'll mainly use the code provided here by this guide, and you can read the comments to see what each callback function does, but I'll briefly go over them. If with GameLift is a macro that's part of the SDK, essentially saying that the following code will only run on server builds, so this won't run on your clients. Here, we're grabbing the module name GameLiftServer SDK, and we'll name it GameLift SDK module. Now, this is available to us because we listed GameLiftServer SDK as a dependency just now in our build.cs file. Here, we are initializing the module. In on game session, which calls activate game session, essentially tells the GameLift service that this server is ready to receive player connections. F process parameters will store all of the parameters necessary for GameLift to function. On terminate, we'll call process ending. On health check, we'll always return true. Essentially, if GameLift is able to reach this server, it will be healthy. Otherwise, if there are no response within 60 seconds, the health status will be false. The port number here is 7777, and this is where the log files will be stored, essentially output to a file named a logfile.txt. And after all of our fprocess parameters are defined, we're ready to call process ready, which will tell GameLift that this server is ready to receive and host game sessions. So we'll copy the body of this code. So in your Visual Studio project, we want to add this code to GameLift-UE4 gamemode.cpp. This file is in your source folder, in your project folder, and is your project name with gamemode.cpp as the suffix. So we want to place this code underneath that if statement that's already there. After you've pasted that code into your gamemode.cpp, make sure you also paste in the include GameLiftServer SDK header file. And you might run into this error, cannot open source file GameLiftServer SDK. This is most likely due to IntelliSense not being able to locate the include path. So to fix this, right-click on your project name in the Solution Explorer, click on Properties, and under Configuration Properties, click on NMake, and the setting we want to change here is the include search path. So edit that, add a new line, then browse. The include search path for the GameLiftServer SDK header file should be in the root of your project. Then in the plugins folder, GameLiftServer SDK, source file, GameLiftServer SDK, and it is in the public file. You can proceed to click Select Folder and click Apply. Okay. You can now proceed to building the development editor. So right-click on your project name in your Solution Explorer and select Build. Once your build is successful, proceed to open up your project in the Unreal Editor. And we can confirm that our plugin was successfully installed by clicking on Edit, Plugins, and then all the way at the bottom in the Other category, you should see GameLiftServer SDK. So repackage your server build. This will conclude this episode of Building Games on AWS. In the next episode, we'll go over how to test your integration locally prior to uploading your server build to the GameLift service.